everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and we will discuss on uh, this wisdom, leadership, and ethical governance. Our keynote speaker, Rob.
Oh,
I request speaker.
all right, I'm up. Well, hello, everyone, and good morning, or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. I keep forgetting time differences. We are standing at a technical. Oh, I just want to let you know, I'm using this to practice working from a script. I realize it's been a long while since I've worked from a prompter, and so I'm going to prompt this. I'm going to use the script. So excuse any stumbles. It's been a while since I've worked from a script. Normally, I extemp talk like this, but I need script practice. So that's what this is going to be. So my apologies if I screw up. So anyway, hello everybody. We are standing at a technological inflection point. Artificial intelligence and quantum computing are no longer just on the horizon, they are here, actively rewriting the rules of commerce, science, and society. But as we marvel at the unprecedented speed of this transformation, we have to ask ourselves a harder question. At the expense of humanity? And I kind of think we are. Today, I want to talk about why navigating this era requires more than just technical brilliance. It requires wisdom-centered leadership and ethical governance. For the last decade, our primary focus has been on capability. We've built AI that can generate art, write code, and predict protein structures. We are on the cusp of quantum systems that will crack computational problems that classical computers simply cannot touch. But power without a moral compass is a liability. We have already seen how rapid development, when disconnected from responsible innovation, leads to algorithmic bias, privacy breaches, and spectacular systematic failures. This brings us to the core of wisdom-centered leadership. Traditional leadership models were built for industrial predictability. Tomorrow's leaders must be receptive, adaptable, and deeply anchored in purpose. Wisdom-centered leadership means prioritizing long-term human well-being and cognitive resilience over short-term optimization. It means having the humility to recognize that while AI can simulate intelligence, it cannot replicate human empathy, moral reasoning, or productive dissent necessary to navigate complex crises. So how do we translate this wisdom into action? Through ethical governance. Governance can no longer be an afterthought or a compliance checklist. The sheer pace of quantum innovation, which will revolutionize everything from cybersecurity to drug development, demands a proactive, principle-based approach to ensure these technologies minimize risk and benefit society at large. Ethical governance means setting up guardrails before the technology scales, something we're not doing at the moment. It requires transparency, accountability, and a commitment to preserving human agency. When we embed these values into our frameworks, we build resilient institutions. Resilient organizations don't just react to digital disruption, they anticipate it. They integrate AI not just to cut costs, but to augment human potential and build workforce adaptability. In other words, AI used to help people, not to replace them. This directly feeds into sustainable development. We often forget that these invisible technologies have massive physical footprints. Training large-scale AI models requires phenomenal amounts of data and computational power, contributing massively to global emissions, and not to mention it's having a pretty big impact on our water supplies. A wisdom-centered leadership dictates that algorithmic sustainability must consider lifecycle carbon integrity alongside public value alignment. We cannot solve climate crisis using tools that quietly exacerbate it. Finally, none of this works without global collaboration. We cannot have fragmented, siloed governance where the global north dictates the rules while vulnerable populations in the global south bear the negative benefits. Responsible innovation requires diverse cross-cultural stakeholder engagement. It requires a unified effort to ensure that the AI and quantum revolution lifts humanity as a whole, rather than widening the inequality gap. In closing, the ultimate challenge of our time is not building smarter machines. We can certainly do that. It is building a wiser society capable of guiding them. That means education plays a major role. The future belongs to those who innovate responsibly, govern ethically, and lead with profound human wisdom. Thank you. And that's my opening.
That's very cool.
So Dr. Sharif, back to you if you're still here. Okay, looks like Sharif's
is he
frozen. Ali, you want to comment on the?
Yeah, no. So I think it was what you wrote was fantastic. So and I'm all for it. One of the things that I'm really keen on is human potential, and I think most people haven't tapped their potential. So essentially, I think that we should encourage a very conscious society that kind of recognises their skills. And I'm part of Genius U, so I think one of the things that happens in education is that children get kind of disengaged because they're not brilliant at everything, but everyone's got kind of natural talent and skills, and kind of identifying those is really important. So and I'm an artist, and kind of I've also worked in education for years as well, and I think the thing is the education system tends to make some people feel like they can achieve, and others, get lost in the system. So I think there's real kind of power in systemic change, and hopefully the application of AI and computing will kind of enable that kind of embedded practice and kind of skill transfer, so that everyone's kind of given an equal opportunity. And I also kind of worry about the environment and the way that we do things. So I think the thing is that kind of consciousness, so that we make choices and we realize the consequences of what happens before we make them, is really important. And my worry is that the industry isn't regulated, so it's kind of going ahead, galloping ahead without people realizing the repercussions. And I think it's really interesting because the people that I know that know most about the implications of AI are my son and my daughter's generation. So my son's just about to graduate with a first class honours degree, and he's done a film degree. But we went to the screenings just about a week and a half ago. And what's really interesting is those filmmakers are just incredibly intelligent. They use state-of-the-art technology for photography, but they don't use AI. And I think the thing is that kind of vision and ability to create is amazing. And I think for people that can't create or don't have the skills, I guess AI gives them the kind of possibility to bring something that they envision to life. But there's nothing that replicates somebody's kind of vision that can kind of put it to into visual or kind of onto paper or onto film. And I think it's so I think those kind of human skills are really important. And I think we've had discussions in the past that hopefully, even though AI is accessible to everyone, it will make people that have got real skills even more valuable, as opposed to, because there is something lacking in what AI renders that a human does. So, and I think there's kind of nuances that it just misses. So I think the thing is that human kind of overriding systems, so they understand the context of things and how things apply, is kind of missed by it. And I only use AI to animate drawings, but I think the thing is sometimes it could take 40 minutes to make an orangutan swing from a tree, because it leaves its legs and arms behind, or it gives it multiple legs that it doesn't need. So so that's a worry when that's just a simple format of animation, that maybe AI kind of makes mistakes in other scenarios that are much more serious. So I think I think that always needs to be kind of a human behind what happens, so that we know that things are done kind of right and it's relevantly, so that it's kind of best practice.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I just posted a link to a piece I just finished from Medium, where I actually talk about what needs to happen with the younger generations coming in, how we need to focus AI and removing the drudgery from a lot of the jobs so they want to work. I've been watching a number of videos recently about interviews with Generation Z kids, and they're not doing well. They don't have a good work ethic. They don't want to work. They don't like the work. Often they're in the job for weeks and then they quit and walk away because they just don't feel like they're getting they're not interested in the job. They feel they're being made to do it. So they'd rather just stay home and do something fun than come into work.
Yeah.
It's not a way just to sustain yourself.
Yeah, no, I think that's the problem there, because I think the thing is if they recognize their passions and they pursue them, which is what
exactly.
that that they succeed, and I've never seen anyone so driven and determined and dedicated as my son. And I spoke to his head of department, and he said he was an incredible from the beginning to the end. And his first piece that he did on his own for 48 hours was probably one of his best pieces of film, So I just think that's where we need to kind of get people so that they're focused and passionate and have purpose in what they do, So that, that's. And most people have skills because they're there for a reason, so
Right.
that they can impact and make a positive difference in whatever way, So yeah.
But we need to identify those skills when they're young and what their interests are, and help them develop those skills so that when they get out in the workplace, one, they've got a job that they enjoy doing, and then the AI is used to remove the drudgery from the job, so it's more fun, more interesting, and more engaging for them.
Because that's really down to either their parents, a combination of their parents and the schools that they go to and the teachers. So, and that's something that, so a teacher can make or break a subject. So, so it's kind of, there's all kinds of, uncertain things that happen. And I think the thing is that there's a resilience in a child if they're backed at home so that they've got self-belief. And I think that self-belief is something that you can't really buy. And I think that's obviously from their foundation, that comes before they even go to school.
Well, I think it goes to the point we really need to do a better job of training parents, because a lot of the times the kids don't receive much supervision or help from the parents. Yeah. And as a result, they kind of hit the workforce unguided. I remember when I was first going to work, my first few days, I thought I was going to be fired because I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. And that's back in my generation. So it's certainly quite a bit worse now, where people just don't have the time to mentor the kids that are coming in. They expect them to hit the ground running, and they are ill prepared to do that. I was ill prepared to do that at the beginning of my career. So I understand it's quite a bit worse now. So, and by the way, when I first entered industrial work, I'd actually had several jobs. Several of them were management and executive jobs, and I still floundered when I entered the enterprise workforce. And as I say, we're just not doing a great job of preparing kids or preparing parents to train their kids for this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Fred's been watching patiently. Fred probably needs to jump in here. And what do you think, Fred?
Okay. If you allow me, we do some sort of research on Wisdom Advantage, and we publishing a book in Innovative Academic Research Publishers. Why do we focus on wisdom? Because right now we have artificial intelligence, we have micro data center, we have quantum computing, and so on. And people have a lot of challenge and so on to integrating to this kind of things. And especially human, even in Bangladesh, many of the human, they're losing jobs because of artificial intelligence and so on. And definitely, I want to welcome them. So agentic AI, the AI training, genetic AI, and so on. But wisdom is something, I believe, this timeless principle for living, leading, and shaping the future is the most important component for our research. In this Wisdom Advantage Waves to Weather timeless philosophy and practically strategy we are making to equipping every readers to navigate a rapidly changing world with clarity, courage, and enduring purpose. So we need to live together. We need to go for leadings and shaping. So what is living? Personal growth, self-awareness, ethical decision-making, which is very important for us. The same way, leading, inspiring your teams, building trust, leading with purposeful vision is very important. And shaping the future means sustainable innovations and building a resilient future. We want to welcome artificial intelligence. We want to welcome data center. We want to welcome this smart city, smart approach, and so on. But we need to go and develop an ethical society. So what is the ethical society and what is wisdom? Wisdom is the integrated capacity to perceive deeply, judge rightly, act ethically, and live purposefully. What is knowledge? Raw understanding of the fact. Systems and context, the raw materials of wisdom. What is experience? Experience is hard-earned lesson drawn from action, failure, reflection, and growth. What is judgment, which is very important in this corporate world, in this politics, in the academia? The refined ability to discern like what truly matters most in any situations. Virtue, ethical courage, and the will to act consistently for the greater good is very important. So the three pillars of wisdom, what I identify, the South Asia is a land of spirituality. We have Hindu, we have Muslim, we have Christian, we have Jewish, we have Buddhas, and all of the religious peoples. Even many of the people, they do not believe in God. So what is the framework for integrating wisdom into every dimension of life? Number one, inner wisdom, self-awareness, daily reflections, emotional intelligence and regulations, value alignment in all decisions, mindful international decision making. We have to be internationalized, right? That's why World Talent Economic Forums, that we have diversified people from USA, from Bangladesh, from UK, and so on. So rational wisdom means empathic, servant leaderships, which is absent around the world. We are observing many of the powerful leaders, they do not have that empathy. Trust building through consistency. We need a consistent approach from the wise people. Wise collaborative, shared vision creations. Let's say we are 4 speakers, we need collaborations. We need shared visions. We need to learn from each other. We have to grow together. Strategic wisdom, long-term systematic thinking, ethical innovation by design. So system thinking is, in the broader aspect, multi-stakeholder perspective, building adaptive resilience, always valuable for us. So the unexamined life is not worth living, according to Socrates. Knowing yourself, inner wisdom is very, very important. So what will be the key practice?
Sharif looks like he's having some problems with the connection.
Radically curious and open-minded.
Sharif,
so practical stillness, regular
Sharif.
reflection reveals blind spots, clarifying your deeper sense of purpose and directions.
Sharif, can you hear me?
Align every daily choice with your most deeply held convictions. Integrated with the consistency, which is valuable.
You must have a really bad connection.
So we need to focus on cultivating curiosities, embrace failures, and so on. Can you hear me clearly?
Well, you're breaking up a lot. We missed quite a bit of the last slide because you froze up. So I was trying to let you know.
I can continue the last slides in this era, in this area. So the measures of leader is not the power they hold, but the trust they earn. We need to create our community who can trust us. So
Sharif, we lost you again. Sharif, we still can't hear you.
So these are the basic things: the principle of transparency, principle of the accountancy, and principle of the service, and principle of the consistency. So if we can develop the ethical leaderships in between our communities together. So my final comments about these ethical leaderships.
Sharif, you've frozen again if you can hear me.
Is building consistent. Number 4, wise innovations. And number 3, legacy in the natural fruit of living. That is the outcomes of my research. That is the outcome what I learned from the wisdoms and so on. And I know that there are many wise people like Rob, like Fred, like Alice, and so on. So Fred, I know that you are developing a cosmic bubble. So what's your thought about that? This is also part of wisdom, right?
Yeah, you could say so. But all this involves, we're dealing with an educational system that was outdated years ago. It's based on an old English version of another brick in the wall, make everybody fit into a specific pattern. I've argued for years about this because I feel like the educational system failed me miserably because it didn't show my talents, only exposed my weaknesses. And I actually had a chance to go to West Point, but my grades in high school were too low. Was probably good for me. So we're talking about a revolution in education of these people today. They're not getting the same message that we got growing up. The advancements in AI and computing have so outpaced everything that we're teaching that we're constantly playing catch up for the kids out there right now. I watch every day as they struggle. I'll tell you right now, it's 10 times worse today than it was when I was younger, just 30, 40 years ago. We're basically got the same pay rate here in the state I'm in, and yet costs have gone up 4 or 5 times as much. And we have not prepared our youth to walk out in this world and deal with what's changing. We're still under the mentality of teaching them all the same subject, teaching them all the same way, when it has to be. I would like to see AI used in determining individual abilities for students in the classroom, for the kids coming up, to determine what they're good at and to line up their education along those lines. I felt stifled when I was looking at going to college because I was required to learn so much more about sociology, about literature, about everything else in the world that I had no concern about and was not going to affect my life other than attending cocktail parties. I felt like we were missing the point. We're individuals in a society that demands everybody be the same and overlooks the possibilities of here we're using wisdom. It's not just gaining of knowledge, it's knowing how to use that knowledge in a way that we can all benefit from it. To top that all off, I'm actually seeing universities across the country, around the world, designing their programs around this idea that individuals matter more than the great society. But we have to have there has to be a meeting of minds, hands across the table, where the educational institutions are in line with the business sectors involved in. Most of our business sector, like Rob said, was the short-term goals, profits, ROI, and everything else involved. And we have to look at this in a long-term goal. We have to set down the goals that we want to achieve from one nation to the next and how we communicate across that. So communication between different peoples becomes imperative at this point. We have to, I've said before, we have to look at the similarities between us and overlook the differences. If somebody doesn't like this color shirt, somebody doesn't like that kind of house, well, you have to learn to get along with everybody else in order to make this thing work. Thank you, Dr. Sharif, Hallie, and Rob. It's an honor being in this group today.
Well, we're waiting for Sharif to come back. Yeah, you made some good points. That one of the interesting aspects of what we talk about in terms of thinking strategically as opposed to tactically is the fact we don't do a great job of training people to think strategically. And a lot of the financial focus of investors is for tactical returns, quarterly results. And so the end result is, over the decades I've been doing this, we've shifted pretty solidly away from strategic thinking to almost exclusively thinking tactically, which I think is part of the problem we've got with these AI related layoffs. A lot of the behavior that's coming out of the AI companies that I believe is increasingly looking unethical. Is they're really thinking short term. We got to get the numbers. We got to get our profitability up. We got to beat the other guy to market, and everything else takes a secondary, tertiary, or may not even be on the list of priorities. And so the result is that we're seeing an awful lot of mistakes. They think from attorneys being disbarred to people being laid off that then have to be rehired because they still need the people. The AI can't do the job, and a lot of destruction of entry level jobs for no real reason. And when you get rid of the entry level jobs, well, then who the hell's going to do the senior jobs? You're never going to train anybody up if you don't train them to begin with. And so we're looking at a fairly major disaster. I think you pointed out, Fred, that education is broken, and it's probably one of the first priorities we need to address. We've got capabilities of using simulation to put kids through the kinds of things that they will face when they enter the workforce and prepare them for those things. So unlike me and probably both Allie and you, Fred, they can enter the workforce more prepared with our tools, but they're not. They're actually entering them less prepared than we are. And that's just problematic.
That's where we should use AI
to
determine in the classroom what can work. Instead of letting AI tell us what to do, we need to tell them what we want them to do for us.
Exactly. Take the drudgery out of work. Let AI do the things that were highly repetitive and annoying, and let the kids be creative. Let the kids explore what they possibly can do, and let them discover what they like, which I think is a lot of the problem now. Kids are looking at the job market like it's was like school. We have to take these classes, we have to get a job, but there's no focus on whether they're going to enjoy the job, whether they're going to enjoy a career, or even whether it's where they want to be. And yet that's what they're working for. No wonder they're demoralized and unfocused.
It's getting further and further from the person having an individual thought, having ability to make decisions about his own destiny in life based upon whether he has the knowledge to make a good decision about this or that.
Right. And Allie, I think you mentioned, I think it was your son, wasn't it? That's doing the creative work. It looks like he's kind of figured it out.
I think the thing is that he's always worked, even when he was at school. So he's hardworking, and even now he works full time at a cinema, which obviously is related to the film industry, but that's not what he wants to do. But he gets that, between contracts, he's going to have to bring money in and pay the rent. So he's choosing to stay in Cardiff, which is the city that the university is at, where he's been. So, but I think the thing is that they have to take responsibility and accountability for their own lives and make things happen, don't they? The same as my nephew that graduated from Oxford. He runs a tutoring business, and he makes enough money working 2 or 3 times a week tutoring advanced maths. Also, he tutors people that are making applications for Cambridge and Oxford, and he gets 2 out of 3 people successfully in for so. But I think the thing is, so he makes a really good living making kind of a full-time wage, but has 4 days out of 7 free, so and the rent in London's really expensive, but London, entrepreneurship is really London centric in the UK, so the best place to be for him is in London. So I think the thing is, you just need to have the drive and probably the kind of courage to go out on your own and make it happen. And I think no one else is going to do it for you. So, and I think the thing is that comes probably from, the people that are around you, and also your own kind of self-belief and, faith that you can make it happen, one way or the other. And that, having a safety net so that you are doing another job that kind of brings in the bread and butter money, when you're not doing what you love. So, yeah.
No, I just think people like your son should be brought in from time to time to lecture at schools and just talk about how they figured it out themselves, so that the kids coming out kind of either follow their example or at least understand there is a path through the aggravation they're going to have when they come out of school.
Rob, is that he's got a natural love for learning, but when he went to primary school, he was dyslexic, so he got disengaged, and it was because he was doing things outside of school. So he was making films and poems and winning competitions but he decoded really late, and I think the thing is So I think the thing is that school for about a year or so, primary school failed, but we were working on projects that were designed to engage children that were getting disengaged in the system. And one of the things that happens is particularly boys get disengaged in literacy. And I think the thing is, part of it's the content. Some of it, you know, like I was part of an entrepreneurship thing about 10 years ago. And even in the UK, I think there was 1 in 3 households that didn't have books to read with their children, and learning to read before you get to school is really important, you know. And at the moment, you know, sometimes children are going to, you know, reception in the UK and they're still not out of nappies. They don't know how to use a knife and fork, you know. So the thing is that there is something amiss with the way that parenting is happening with some children. But the difference between the ability and, you know, that ability makes a difference and how they're going to, you know, proceed, really. So I think the thing is kind of there's foundational skills that need to be nurtured, and that comes from parents. And I also believe that having children and then putting them in daycare, you know, from like 7 in the morning till 7 at night isn't parenting, is it? You know, that's, no. So I think the input from your parents is really important.
Yep. Well, Sharif is back. Sharif, back to you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. This is excellent discussions. Actually, like this is the beauty of our talent economy. Specifically, I want to share, this is the symbol of wisdom affairs, right? All of the speakers from different backgrounds, they share their experience and so on for the betterment of the communities, betterment of the humanities, right? An example, very focused discussions. I want to say it's really helpful for Bangladesh. You can see even the business incubations right now, they are utilizing our content for developing the social entrepreneurs. So all of the speakers, I want to invite you all as a mentors, because this is excellent opportunity to change human life. Secondly, in terms of government agency, they are also thinking that your dialogue, your discussions, our research paper, our publications, it's create a very positive impact. So the policy level, like a different ministry, they are taking our World Talent Economic Forums, and this is because all of you have great contributions in our World Talent Economic Forum. Even the corporations and banking sectors, they think that how we utilizing or bringing this ecosystem of entrepreneur ecosystem for this venture capital, this will be helpful for them. The same way academia, you know, that academia also helping us a lot. So what I understand, actually, the pure love, pure heart, pure contributions, what we did last 7 years, right, can bring a real success for the people. And that is called humanity. I think Rob with me from day one. So I want to give very, very special thanks to Rob. Even the Ali Rice and the Fred and all of the speakers are very, very important for us. Especially I want to give thanks David Smith also. He is sick right now. He is admitted in hospital. I have core sympathy for him. I see many of the speakers from Tando, from Transhumanist Party, from different backgrounds, from Paris Graduate School, from this innovative academic research publishers. This is humanity. This is the symbol of wisdom. This is the symbol of empathy. So this empathy and sympathy is very, very important for the global community. So creating better communities. So we need more wise people like you. So Rob, you are extraordinary for me and for us. So what's your thoughts? How we can improve, how we can bring more engagement with the peoples with your guideline?
Well, if you want to increase engagement, you probably need to include some younger age groups in our mix. A lot of us are older and towards the end of our careers, and part of the issue we're talking about is the fact that kids are coming into this environment ill prepared for it, and with expectations that, you know, money is either going to magically be there, and maybe they'll be the next Elon Musk, and neither one of those are true. And honestly, if you study Elon Musk's life, I don't think any of us would want to be him. By the way, it's true of a lot of the billionaires I've known over time. They were not happy people, and they were not well-adjusted people for the most part. There've been exceptions, but some of the ones I've known were just, when they got to be my age, were miserable folks, and been divorced multiple times. Their kids don't like them. Their friends are all artificial, just after them for their money, and really no sense of comfort or accomplishment. As I say, there are exceptions to the rule, but they're the exceptions, and really helping kids understand some of the goals that are viable, goals like just having a happy life. I remember one of the lessons in my youth was that my best friend's father, who was Armenian, I watched him make and lose a number of fortunes. When I first knew my friend, his parents were relatively poor, and had come into the country with very little. And then as the years went on, his father got very wealthy, and started making some bad decisions, both with his marriage, which his wife never forgave him for, and in his personal life. And then lost the fortune, and then remade it. And then I talked to him a few years later, and he explained to me that what he learned was that you just need to look for joy in life. I mean, just do things that are fun, that please you. And so one of the things he used to do when he traveled, unlike the rest of us who take tours and are controlled in our travel and follow a particular script in terms of what they're seeing and what they're viewing, he would do things like go into a restaurant and he would buy out the restaurant, basically say, hey, how much would it cost me for you guys to just shut down for the night? He could afford it at that point, and just have dinner with us. And so he would sit down with the restaurant owner's family, he'd pay for the dinner, restaurant of the family, give them a day off from working, and just find out about their lives, what they're doing. And he enjoyed the hell out of it. It was something I would have never even thought of. And at the end of his life, he'd lost his fortune again. He basically lived in a motel, and he owned it. But his joy was just cooking. He kept himself in really good physical shape, and he was, again, not wealthy at all at the end. But he was happy, and he was content. He felt he'd lived a full life. He'd experienced the things he needed to experience. Made a lot of mistakes. Had a lot of successes, but at the end, I think if we were to measure his life as being whether it was a success or a failure from his standpoint, it was a success because he ended up well-rounded and happy with where he was, regardless of the fact that he was no longer near as wealthy as he had been, and he lacked a lot of the resources that he had once had. So I think that's where we let both ourselves and our kids down, is explaining that really happiness is not something you equate with wealth, and wealth may actually work against your happiness. If people are after you for your money, you can't be sure of your friends. You can't be sure of your spouses. You really can't be sure of your kids. I've seen a bunch of situations within my own family where the kids were just basically waiting for their parents to die. And certainly I've heard the stories where the kids kind of take that into their own hands because they want the money now. And that just kind of showcases a complete failure of the family dynamic. And yet we really don't focus on family. We don't focus on really understanding what it is that would allow us to have the happiness we're entitled to. And as a result, we thrash. And our failure to use AI to help people find their best path and their best selves, I think it's going to come back and bite us in the butt in a few years.
I just want to add few points because, in real life, I work a lot of people, like politicians, like universities, like corporations, and so on, with our research, with our dialogues, with our class, with our innovations, and so on. And at some point, I find that actually there are many things we have similars. Specifically, people always asking me for personal growth. So how we can go for this way. So how actually what I learned from World Talent Economic Forums and what I create for this community: number 1, awareness; number 2, reflections; number 3, integrations; number 4, contributions; number 5, legacy. Right. All of the things, trust me, I find all of the speakers. I find that how you creating awareness, how you create a reflections of the humanity, how you create integrations, and how you contribute, and how you maintain the legacy. So what is awareness? Recognize recurring patterns in your thoughts, habits, and choice. What is reflections? Draw meanings, lasting lessons from your lived experience. So through this experience, we learn a lot. What is integration? Let's say how I see inside Mr. Rob and Ali's and Fred and so on. Embody those lessons into daily characters and consistent practice. And I see excellent contributions mentality from the Western world. How beautiful you are, how talented you are. Regularly, every week I find people come here and contribute their knowledge. So that is the things our global South, they also can learn. Apply your wisdom to create real, tangible value for others.
Right.
Simple. And final things, legacy. Let's say always Rob says about his legacy, build enduring impact that outlasts your own lifetime. So applying wisdom is the most important components. And I want to give thanks from core of my heart, the speakers, those who regularly contribute through this process. So always they ask me, is it the philosophical aspect or it is practical aspects? When I go to universities, especially when I talk with the students, I say this is both. This is practical actions, and this is actually philosophy. So what is Aristotle thinks? This is practical wisdom. What is the Stoic discipline of desire and the right actions? If you see the Buddhist mindfulness and attachment also important. Confucius virtue ethics and social harmony also important. The same way I am, because we are Ubuntu philosophy, which is also very important for me. Even though the philosophical aspects of our speaker, let's say Rob is very ethical, David is very consistent. Honestly speaking, even I'm very impressed by this Fred, like how deeply you can understand this global community, understand these cosmic bubbles and so on. So what are the practical actions? So weekly we can reflective journalist practice. We can go for analysis before major decisions. We can go for stakeholder empathy, mapping in strategies, and what I call 10-10-10 rules, like impact in 10 minutes or 10 months or years. So daily micro commitment actually create excellent values. So how we develop our World Talent Economic Forum. So our World Talent Economic Forum focus on small contributions, but as we are consistent and we have a very ethical people like Rob, like Refred, like Ali, like David Smith, and all of the peoples, it's actually create extraordinary values for Global South. So that is your wisdom. That is your community. That is your achievement, not my single approach. I always say this is collective approach, community-based actions. I'm not alone. I'm actually nothing. But when we work as a team, when we work as a communities, then we are valuable. That is the wisdom I learned from this community. So, Rob, what's your thoughts?
No, it makes sense. The level of collaboration we've had, I think, has been incredibly important. At least our ability to come together from diverse backgrounds and talk to a topic and provide illumination of some of the things that we're all dealing with, and a lot of the kids are dealing with right now, with the inclusion of or the launch of AI and on the cusp of quantum computing, which will be even more disruptive. I do think, I wonder if as we go forward, though, we shouldn't be looking at creating digital twins of some of the lead speakers, so that if some of us pass or are unable to, for whatever reason, to continue, that resource remains available and it can be used granularly. The digital twin approach would allow a student or somebody that was looking for guidance to approach us at scale, because each one of us can certainly help one or two kids at a given point in time. But if we were to create a digital twins of ourselves and did a good job of it, then our ability to help large numbers of people, I think, would increase. Plus, I think we would ourselves learn something through the process, because it forces us in the creation process to really think through our positions and our ideals and maybe reconsider some of them ourselves, because none of us are perfect. And the end result could be something where we're using applied AI to actually move the ball forward. It's one of my frustrations a lot of times in working with tech companies is they rarely use artificial intelligence themselves when they're actually talking about what it is they're building. They build AI, but for the most part, they don't really use it strategically. And I think if there was a way for us to cross that threshold and be able to showcase that we can use AI strategically, it would form an example for others that might help them in their path forward.
Excellent. Fred, what you want to add? And then Ali.
Well, since you done mentioned it several times, Dr. Sharif, maybe I ought to drop the bomb on everybody. Rob, I've got something that's going to change the world tomorrow. I've got the ability to reach out to all of the younger generations, to everybody around the globe, not just in this country. Cosmic Bubbles and the Mother Rock is the name of what I've given it. Is that a star chart or a zodiac behind you there?
Yes.
Me, no. It's a representation of the universe. It's kind of something that, if you remember the movie Time Bandits.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
It's kind of an image taken from Time Bandits. So it was just fun. Wait to see what I replace it with.
So if I told you that I could give you a description of the universe that just totally blows everything out the water, I hope to get you interested, maybe open a dialogue with you.
Sure, you can do it.
I'm going to say something that's going to sound stupid and extraordinary and rather arrogant, but I know if you keep up with space and industry and all that, you know that there's been a whole lot of discrepancies about the Big Bang come out recently that's just been adding up one after another. So if I say everything in astronomy is wrong and has been wrong for 1,000 years because of one mistake made in 1054 with the Crab Nebula, and I extend that out to show you everything in the universe, including from the galaxies all the way to the atom, the scalability of everything, that really is astounding the way it all works together. And
that's the way science is supposed to. That's the way science is supposed to work. Is we're supposed to consistently challenge our beliefs and discover which ones are right and which ones are wrong, and that's where we're supposed to advance. It's supposed to be very different than religion, where religion is supposed to be immutable and immovable, and that's not the way we deal with it in science. So, which is often why science and religion are cross purposes. But yeah, no, I'd be interested in hearing about that thing. As long as it's not a flat Earth thing, I'm good.
Oh no flat Earth. I was an orphan. I was an adopted till I was 8.5 years old. And the first thing I learned, two things about the world. One is big people lie to you, and the other is big people lie to each other.
And they lie to themselves.
Yeah, to each other.
That's the bigger problem.
Cosmic Bubbles and the Mother Rock. I describe a universe that is made up of equal parts matter, antimatter, spatially separated by a membrane. Electromagnetic fields around each galaxy and in between the antimatter that powers the galaxy. The whole process it goes through. No Big Bang, no black holes, no expanding universe, no dark energy, no dark matter.
Yeah, some of the new dark matter theories are really interesting at the moment.
Oh, they're all bull. Dark matter and dark energy were invented to make up for discrepancies in the Big Bang.
Yeah, I've heard that, but still, that some of the theories now surrounding what dark matter is or is not are fascinating at the moment. Very different from what they were 10 years ago.
You hear the latest one? Somebody says it's bleeding gravity through another.
Yeah,
dimension.
that was the one. That's one I just saw this last week. I just ran into it. It was kind of interesting. We're a bit off topic now, but it's fascinating how fast that's changing.
The point being is this changes education from here on out.
Yeah, well,
I think every
education has to be much more fluid.
Yeah,
it has to move away from this root memorization of textbooks, which often are out of date when they're published, and let alone the 20 or 30 years they're in market. And and we can do that. I mean, we can create the equivalent of textbooks real time using current information. It's one of the things that AI is really good at. And yet, I imagine the publishers are going to be very much against us going down a path where kids no longer use textbooks, and they use something that is created real time, virtually. That informs them at least what current thought is and current theory is, as opposed to what the thoughts and theories were from the 1940s.
Well, publishers being against this is probably the benefit of the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe so.
Because we've had thousands of published scientific articles that have been retracted over the last few years. It came about in the 1920s, 1930s when journalism was being taken over the peer review system, and you had to publish or perish. You had to review something for somebody else in order to get them to publish your work, and you had to agree with them in order to get published. So everything that didn't agree with the mainstream was just
a lot of amazing inventions were lost because of that.
I've been threatened with arrest and thrown in jail, and I've had conversations with 5 different AIs that point out all the reality of what I have, that it's there, that it's functional, it works.
All right. Cool. Thanks, Fred.
But the idea being that, like it was when we were growing up, it's a generational thing again.
Yeah. We
have to have the trust between us and the younger generation where they'll, instead of looking at us and say, no, you don't know, you're old.
Yeah. I'm getting tired of the comment boomer.
Yeah.
Okay, boomer. Shut up.
I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I may do that going forward as well.
Yeah, it means we got 20 to 30 years more wisdom and knowledge than they do. We've already been kicked around enough to know.
True.
So, yeah, I just thought I'd get that out. That what I'm working on.
Interesting. Thank you.
It's going to change the world. I love you to look at it because
I will.
If you like Time Bandits, Sean Connery is one of my favorite actors of all time. My son was named after him. My daughter was born on his birthday. It's crazy the links in our lives together. I'm told I have ancestors from Edinburgh, Scotland. And
cool.
Enough of that. I don't like to talk about myself, but let's. We understand one thing here is this is really a failure of the educational system the way it's designed.
Yeah.
The only thing we can do is integrate it. We need to integrate AI with it. We need to have the business sector along with the educational sector. You remember those work programs, the apprenticeship in the past, where you learned how to do a job because the people you were going to work for taught you how to do it.
Right.
It became.
That's the way I learned how to do the first few jobs I ever had. Is somebody that did it before just taught me how to do it, and off I went. It's why trade schools are right now far more beneficial than colleges and universities if you're really looking to get a job when you come out.
Yeah.
Dr. Shreve, back to you. Or Ali.
I was going to say that I worked with and over here in England, basically they set up a new project because there was so many children that were getting disengaged in the education system. And I was trained as a creative agent. And the secret to engaging children is basically making sure that there's a student-led project, so they do their own research and their own discovery, and they can do that even when they're, because in England the children go to school in reception before they turn 5, so they go to school at a younger age than in the States. But essentially, if you run a creative process and the children are student-led. And parents maybe, they do some of the research at home, so parents get involved as well. They do the research, and we've done all kinds of stuff. But some of the things that were amazing was there was an animation project that we did that was based on the sea oceans of the world. And the children chose their own animal, found where it was from, and found unique information about it. Made the animal out of plasticine, and then we used what's it called? Google Earth. We used Google Earth to go from the school around the world to where the animals were found. And apart from there was no predatory behavior, so there was no blood but it was amazing. And our objectives were to do science and geography And basically one of the things that happened is these children didn't know that they were working. So the other thing as well is I truly believe that there needs to be less differentiation between play and work. And people like we've had meetings at the headquarters at Google, and most of those companies play to kind of come up with ideas and, you know, and innovate. And essentially that differentiation needs to be destroyed. So children, you know, young people, you know, as young or as old as they are engaged, and, you know, they just find flow and work individually and as a team, so that there's an individual journey and a shared journey that also includes their staff as well. So that, and it was filmmaking, you know, and essentially every school in the UK has a white screen and incredible technology at their fingertips, but most staff weren't trained on it, but most young people know how to use it. So what's happened, we had meetings with David Putnam years and years ago, and he brokered different relationships with us and Nesta. But essentially what happened is that there's the thing that he foresaw is that there was going to be a massive gap between our generation and our children, technologically wise. Yeah. And essentially one of the things that's really key, because I'm part of the RSA as well, and creativity is key, and children are naturally creative. And creativity is essentially kind of squashed as they get older, unless they pursue kind of art and design or, you know, specific things. And essentially we all create our reality as well. So creativity is key to all of us. And essentially learning to collaborate and work as an individual and as a team is really important. So, you know, those creative processes, that creative process enables the gifted and talented to go as far as they can, but also enables those that need more support to get the support, but without restraining those that are able to just independently go for it. So essentially, you just get a dynamic process that's much more exciting than a dry lesson on a board, you know. So essentially, definitely in the UK, I don't know about in the States, but definitely all the equipment in schools is already there, but they just need the dynamism. And that's when we work with creative partnerships, we did all kinds of projects. So they brought creative practitioners in to re-engage children in literature or maths. And, you know, there's a massive correlation between music and maths. And, you know, so essentially it basically changed schools' thinking. So as soon as those projects had finished, those children were suddenly given the empowerment and the engagement to make a difference to their space and their, you know, their community. And I think the thing is that what makes them valued is if they count for something. So we've done huge murals on schools or in communities, but essentially students and young people have been the heart of the process. And I think the thing is that young people can have responsibility and take it, but most of them aren't given it. And that's what was really incredible, is everything that we did, even though every project was different, enabled young people to have a say, have a voice, and make a positive change in their school, in their environment, you know, and it was amazing. So, you know, and I think that's the way to go, so that students, you know, that there needs to be a two-way process. So students, we it's the same as children and parents. We learn as much from our children as they do from us, and the same thing should be between students and, you know, their teachers. So it's a continual evolution, you know, and it's amazing. So, you know, those children that are engaged are the ones that, you know, just are confident to kind of go with their idea and push it through. And I think the thing is, if you set a brief, you know, a design brief to a group of 30 children, every single one of them is going to come up with just an incredible idea that's more diverse than you can ever imagine if you're, you know, like a 30-year-old or a, you know, a 50-year-old that hasn't. So, you know, I think their kind of vision and their possibility hasn't been inhibited at all. So, you know, so that's what we should do in, you know, in schools, and is keep that kind of creative kind of dynamism of kind of possibility, so that they know that they've got potential and they can, you know, they can make a difference and create things that, so we did projects when they made wind turbines, but we worked with an engineering company, so they were given the equipment to make anything they wanted, and it was just made out of paper straws and nuts and bolts. But they made real working turbines with little, and they could measure the energy. So, you know, it's just, so I think making prototypes and looking at, and you know, making school benches or changing the exterior environment, excuse me, and having to measure dimensions and, you know, that's how to apply maths, so that they realize that there's context with everything that they do, so that they understand that it has value, and so do they. That's, so I think that's what school's missing is, I think the Royal Society of Arts, so Ken Robinson died, I think in 2020, but he was incredible, and he's the real flagship guy to really demonstrate what creativity brings and how important the education system needs to change, because it was obviously built like in the Industrial Revolution, so that they saw children as sausages that came through the same machine, and so that everyone's individual and has their own journey to make. So yeah, but the creative process is really key.
Part of that though, with regard to teaching creativity, is making sure that, and I think it was on a chart that Sharif had up earlier, is promoting tolerance for failure. Giving them credit for trying something. If they try something that is incredibly ambitious but it doesn't work, typically what happens, they get an F because it didn't work. Well, they should be graded on the attempt as a student, not necessarily on the result. So you're encouraging their creativity, you're encouraging getting kids to think out of the box, because otherwise everybody wants, because they want to be successful, everybody wants to copy somebody else and just stifle creativity. Well, what happened, and part of the issue with cheating on something like this is somebody goes, well, what did the professor like the last time? I'll just do that because it's safe and it's going to get them a grade. And that is the antithesis of what we're trying to create with creating kids that are intelligent, that are able to innovate, that are able to think out of the box. I'm reminded of the story of the professor that had lectured, and he put a problem on the blackboard that had never been solved. It was considered an unsolvable mathematical problem. And one of the students came in late and thought that problem, that unsolvable mathematic problem, was actually the homework assignment. And he solved it. And it took him a considerable amount of time, but he thought his grade was going to be dependent on solving this unsolvable problem. And he solved it because nobody told him it was an unsolvable problem. And that goes back to one of the big issues that I've had, even with my own education, is having a professor tell you that something's impossible. Really, not there is nothing that is impossible. You might have to approach it a very different way. But we've certainly discovered a lot of things that we thought were impossible. I mean, going back in the past, there were reports that said that you couldn't have a train go over 70, I think it was 70 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour. Couldn't go over 70 miles an hour because a woman's reproductive system would catastrophically fail at that speed, which of course is, if that were true, we'd have real problems in aircraft as they're taking off all the time. And then, of course, passing the speed of sound, that was impossible. Certainly, that physically it couldn't happen. It was too destructive. And of course, we've done that several times. Now, exceeding the speed of light is supposedly impossible, but we've now got some theoretical ways to exceed the speed of light. But a lot of our limitations are self-imposed, and they're self-imposed because somebody in authority told somebody that it was impossible. And difficult doesn't necessarily mean impossible. And a lot of the things that we've discovered over time that we thought were impossible turned out not to be. But we only get there if somebody believes that there at least is a chance they get it done. If we just pound on them and convince them it can't be done, it won't get done.
Yeah.
I think it's time to start wrapping up. Are you back?
Actually, and they were saying that the difference between people that succeed and those that don't is even just one person that showed full belief in them from the beginning, so if they've had some kind of mentor or parent or friend or somebody that's instilled that faith that they can do whatever it is they're achieving, that kind of propels them to success. And it doesn't even matter who's around them, it's just that kind of one person that gives that self-belief so that they can succeed, so I think it's, and obviously with my own children, so that we've done everything to support them. And as soon as they were passionate and we saw where their love was, we encouraged it, and Coty and Alaska were filmmakers when they were 3 and 4. So it wasn't really surprising that Coty did what he did. And when he was having difficulty decoding and he was set homework, he'd make short films So, so it's really interesting and he won a couple of national competitions that were, like there was an eco thing that and for designing a car that would run on household waste. And, so I think it's really interesting that it's not, the education comes from home and school, but it has to, I think it's just engaging that kind of fire within them so that, and I think the thing is most young people have this kind of, I know, the first time I came to the States and traveled on my own, I was 21 and the world was my oyster and I had no fear whatsoever. And it was the best thing that I ever did. And that's, being in California was the thing that changed me because I was a twin and I was the introverted. I was the smiley introverted one. When I went to the States, everything changed, And I didn't know anyone, but it was the best thing that I ever did. And we had a Native American wedding, our children have got Native American names. And the thing is, I think one of the things that I loved actually is I love nature, being nature's imperative, so, and I think it should be for everyone as well. So I think the natural world is something that we gain so much from, and our, we've chosen to live in rural areas, so our children grew up in nature and climbed trees and didn't spend their time on, so, that connection's really important too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you everyone. I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible. Also, I request everyone to submit research paper beside this dialogue in Innovative Academic Research Publishers. Thank you, Mr. Rob. Thank you, Mr. Fred, and thank you, Ali Rice. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.